Tony Truglio of Liege Lord. Welcome to 69 Faces of Rock. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Mark.
Excellent. We're going to talk about the history of the band here. So, what were the beginnings of Liege Lord?
Liege Lord, how this began was the drummer, Frank Cortese, is my cousin. So we grew up like brothers. Our parents came from Italy. We lived next door. We started to fall in love with music. So Frank was a year ahead of me. We went to we just discussed, Frank and I were in a Polish Catholic school. And Frank graduated a year before me, and we went to a public high school, and I was introduced to Vinci. So we started this quest to play music together, the three of us. We got together as much as possible. We searched different musicians. First we started doing cover songs. We found metal, right? So we started doing Judas Priest. Sometimes they say we're a Priest cover band, but we really weren't. We were a metal cover band. We did Priest, we did Maiden. We did a lot of what we thought was the best music in the world. Then we started writing songs.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
What was the local scene like at that time?
Not very metal in Stamford, Connecticut, where I still live. Mm-hmm. We were, there was a group of friends that got together on weekends, and we drank beer and we cranked metal out of the car. We listened to like all the new wave British heavy metal. We listened to everything we can get our hands on, and that was hard to find. We're talking about 1982, 83, even before that. I think my first metal concert was Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, and Killer's Point of Entry tour. So, maybe there was about 20, 30 of us that just got together every weekend. If we weren't practicing music, that was our scene, because it was kind of...
It's a way of life.
Yeah, and it wasn't, we kind of came from a town where it was looked at, we had long hair, we were looked at strange, like, wow, look at these freaks, you know what I mean? But we had our little club, and that's all that mattered, that's what the scene was like. To this day, I think when we got back together, we played we don't even play in our home, in the town that Liege Lord came from, we're not acknowledged there. And it's probably, the one thing that was exported out of Stamford, Connecticut, all over the world was Liege Lord, and the town has no knowledge of it,
So tell me, how did you transition from being a cover band into writing originals?
So the first form of actual, we were Deceiver. When we became Liege Lord, it was a 4-piece band. We couldn't find another guitar player that wanted. We were like, and now you look at it, we weren't that heavy, as opposed to like, maybe the first Metallica album. People didn't want to play it. Guitar players were like, oh, this stuff's too heavy. I don't want to play that stuff. We went into a studio with as Deceiver, and we wrote I wrote the music, and I wrote the lyrics, and I presented it to Matt, and we recorded that and none of us have it. We did that, I forgot the name of the song even. We did an Iron Maiden song, I think we did Metal Gods by Judas Priest, we did Flight of Icarus. So that got us into the clubs, and the more we started playing in clubs, we started writing. So we became 50% originals, 50% covers, right? And then the covers went out the window. And we started writing so much. There's so many songs that we didn't even put on the first album. We still have this lot of, a handful of songs that we played, and we just we didn't feel they were our strongest. And I wish it'd be fun to kind of dig those up and redo them, but that's how
that would be nice.
That's how we became Liege Lord. We became an all-original band.
And the name Liege Lord, what does that mean? Where did it come from?
I'm going to tell you the history. When we had the name Deceiver, which is obviously off of Sad Wings of Destiny. We're huge old Priest. It's funny, the early Judas Priest is what we loved. Like Stained Class was our favorite album, and still is my favorite Judas Priest album, right? We wrote a bunch of things down. We all submitted, Matthew, myself, and Andy, our first singer. We submitted different names, and we all agreed that was the best. That was Matt's play on words, And the history of the word. It's kind of like, it almost Liege and Lord. It's kind of like the same meaning, really, And we just thought it looked cool, We had the old font. We just stuck with it,
When you wrote originals, at what point did you realize, hey, we up to something good here? What was like the turning point?
Yeah, I think we did a 4-song demo. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It was
Oh, yeah.
done at the
Absolutely.
Carriage House. I think it was done at the Carriage House Studios, where we ended up doing Master Control. You know what I noticed? That we listened to a lot of metal, but I didn't think we sounded like what we were listening to. I thought the way we took in our influence, obviously Maiden, Priest, UFO, Thin Lizzy, but we weren't writing that kind of music, maybe a little bit like Maiden. I think we had our own sound, and I thought that felt good. It's like, what, we really don't, we're not copying anyone. We're taking, as any artist takes influences, it's how you put it out differently. And I didn't feel like we were plagiarizing anyone. And I think the three of us thought we were, and even Andy, I thought we were onto our sound. It sounded like Liege Lord.
Clearly you are not. So how did you end up signing to Black Dragon, which is a French label?
So originally we signed to Ironworks first, which Jack Panzer, Mark, who I believe is here this weekend.
Oh yes, he is.
Mark recommended us to Dave Richards, who owned Azra Ironworks. We were going to do an EP. So we did an EP, then we got the Black Dragon deal. And they said, no, we want a full album. So they gave us a little more money. We took the EP and we went to another studio and we recorded 4 or 5 more songs. So the songs on that album were actually recorded in two different studios. So we got our own deals. Obviously, with help, like I said, Mark from Jag Panzer, Christian Logue from Savage Grace,
yes,
was already signed to Black Dragon. He loved our demo. He got us in touch with Agnes, and she offered us a deal. And then also Canada, we had, what's his name, Bonsai.
There was, Bonsai.
Bonsai. So there's Liege Lord, Freedom's Rise, Bonsai. So really, we were self-managed. The only help we had were from people like Christian Logue and Mark from Jack Panzer. We really had to do our own thing. We didn't have any management, anyone really helping us do anything. It was the 5 of us, and Matt handled a lot of the business. My cousin got gigs, and we just worked together as a family. We were really like a family.
Yeah. So Freedom Rise comes out. We're gonna grab the record and show it, right?
And this is the European release.
It comes out in 1985.
1985.
Can you reflect on the record?
This was the year after I graduated high school. It's funny that the band before it, the first version of Liege Lord, we played a battle of bands at my high school. I think we came in 4th place out of 4 bands. We lost because they weren't ready for the metal explosion, you know what I mean? And the look that we had. This was a really cool era because we were kids. We didn't know anything about production. I mean, I think it came out pretty good for what the finances that were involved. And we were green. This is our, we'd only been in the studio to record covers. We're learning how to make guitar sounds. So this has, funny, I've never seen this version of this album with all the pictures on the back. There's pictures from this is Master Control tour with Anvil, Andy, it's got a timeline. I don't have one of these. I'm going to have to look for this. I felt we put something out pretty cool. These songs you'll hear tonight, we still play a number of these songs.
How did you promote this album?
Black Dragon would run they run ads in Kerrang. They tried desperately in the United States. I don't think there was. I think once in a while Dave would run an ad with us or Jag Panzer in a rock, a metal mag or something. But this, how we promoted it, by going out touring and
what kind of tours did you do? Did you play Europe since you were on the European
label? We didn't
label?
go to Europe. We never went to Europe until we got back together.
Okay.
We almost went with Hades, I think in '88, and I don't think we didn't go because none of the money was forwarded to us. I think Hades went and it didn't last long because the promoter was a shady promoter. So you had a lot of this too, you know what I mean? It's like, we never got to Europe, but that's where most of our fan base was.
So in 1987, Burn to My Touch comes out. You want to grab that?
Sure.
And
So this was done by-
and this time it's on Metal Blade. So when did Metal Blade enter the picture?
And here's how this family stuff works. Obviously, we'll get to who's playing bass with us now. This is Jim from Fates Warning, helped us. He recommended us to Brian. Brian gave us a 2-album deal. So this was you know, I like a lot of these songs. You know, a lot of these songs. Last week we played an hour and a half set. Tonight we cut some of the songs because it's only an hour set. But some of these songs came out like they come out really, really good live, man. They're heavy. Production. We were referred to Joe Bouchard, who was the bass player in Blue Oyster Cult, who was great in a band, loved Blue Oyster Cult, had just left Blue Oyster Cult, and he was looking to get into production. So we tried it, and I think it was his first time. So, you know, this is, you know, what we call a sophomore effort. I think it's still, you know, I can listen to it. It stands the test of time, and I love Andy, but this is the breaking point of this unit. You know, as you know, Pete left the band after Britain's Rise because it wasn't his style. It was too heavy, and Paul came in. Paul, you know, we auditioned a bunch of guitar players, and Paul was just the right one. He knew business well. He knew how to structure stuff. So he helped make this album sound the way it does.
What was Metal Blade able to do for you in the States?
Gave us a little bit of money to record. You know, there was there was never any tour support. It was more like put the album. They would put ads out. Same thing. You know, going back, you're a few years younger than me, but you know there were metal fanzines and magazines.
Yeah, magazines, Head Parader. I mean, a lot of
yeah,
magazines.
those are the bigger ones. We're talking the underground. Like my friend Pat had
Metal
a magazine.
Forces.
Power Line was a
Yeah.
Metal Forces. It was affordable for them to run ads in these type of magazines. Like an occasional Kerrang, maybe we'd get like, you know, if they did 4 bands, Metal Blade would put 4 bands in there, you know. So that's how they supported us, you know. I mean, we flew out to California, you know. We did interviews in the Metal Blade offices, and the people at Metal Blade were very supportive of us, very supportive.
So a year later, in 1988, Master Control comes out, right? Would you say at this point the band was fully developed musically?
I love our first 2 albums, but this is, I think we came into our own with this, because it started to get a little heavier. It was, you know, this was a solid unit, and all we wanted to do was make the best album we could. Another friend of ours who passed away, and you're familiar with the Metal Church.
Of course.
We were friends with them, and they recommended Terry Day to us. Terry Day produced this album, and there's a little bit of history at the studio. We went into the Carriage House Studios, which was our hometown. At that point, the band was based in one town. It was easy to rehearse. We had a studio. We rehearsed. We went into this to do this album. We were a well-oiled machine. We toured. We practiced. That was our thing to do. Get a keg of beer or whatever. Go to our studio, and we practiced. These songs were thought out. You know, it was a family contribution, and you know, I think this is the best thing we did. So, you know, this was the second album on Metal Blade. So this was the end of our Metal Blade contract. So this we got to tour a little more. You know, we rode with Anvil for 3 months. We toured with Candlemass. Lots of fun. It's a special period. It seemed like it was peaking, and then, as you know, what happened after, you know.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. But,
So,
you know,
so generally speaking, what reception was like for the 2 Metal Blade albums?
I think they were pretty good, you know. Obviously, we weren't mainstream, but the underground, you know, if you notice on the albums, maybe not these newer ones, if you look at all the original ones that came out, I don't know if it's on here because these are reissued. It's a P.O. box on here, but the original band was Matt's home address, and that's where we started the band. We started playing in Matt's basement, you know. You know, there's a lot of Italian history with the band Liege Lord. You know, we practiced until finally we had to get out of there because Matt's poor parents were watching TV, and we're playing Rage of Angels, cranked, and they're sleeping upstairs. So
Yeah,
you know, we
tough.
had a lot of support from our parents, lots of support.
What were your biggest challenges at that time?
Yeah, we'll have to hear from the
Biggest challenges, you know, you know, obviously, you know, you never had enough money. Some of the you know, the tour buses, you know, like it was always done on a shoestring budget. But I think that's what made the ride special. We
Sure.
just taped and glued our lives together to make this happen. It was us. Really, I'm thankful for Metal Blade, but it was the 5 people in Liege Lord that made that happen.
Funny you say that, because most of the bands I interview from that time frame, they say not having enough money or running out of money, which is pretty much the same.
You know, like I said, you know, Frank's parents, my parents, these were hardworking parents that came from Italy. They were immigrants and they worked and they helped us as much as they could. They supported us. They didn't say, don't do that, don't play music. They helped us. If we needed a little bit of money, my parents, Matt's parents, Paul's mother, like all of us, we came together. You know, we came together and they gave us what we could. And when we were on tour, back in then, we didn't have Venmo. We had Western Union. If we broke down and we didn't have gas, we'd call our parents and they would they'd send us $300-400 so we could get to the next town, you know?
Yeah.
Because we were making a lot of money on tour.
What led to a breakup in 1990?
So, you want to close that door?
I'm happy can. No, it's
All right. So, you know, a couple different things. Some of the tours were rough. Were rough on us. We were offered another deal by Metal Blade. We were offered like an 8-album deal. We had it looked at, and I'm thankful they offered it to us. I think Matt felt his taste in music were changing a little bit, and the demos we had were great. Metal was a little different vibe going on. You know, I know Paul had stuff written. I wrote songs, and actually, you know, some of the riffs on the new stuff we're writing are some of the old Liege Lord riffs. Matt just called me one day and said, I don't think I can do this anymore. You know, he wanted to go to school for photography. And I felt my loyalty was, Matt and I were like brothers. I felt like my loyalty was to him, so I didn't want to continue on without him. So we just decided to disband. You know, was it the right decision? Maybe not. I think if you could have asked Matt before he passed, I think he might have said maybe we should have kept it going.
It seems like more people caught up to your music when you were gone as opposed to when you were a functioning band. How do you explain that?
You know, I got to tell you, when I've seen Oliver from Keep It True, I always tell him, you're the reason Liege Lord got back together. He brought us there, and never in my life did I expect to sit for an hour and sign my old records, nor did I play Rage of Angels and hear people in the back of the auditorium, which is a big auditorium, singing lyrics. I was heartfelt. It was amazing. It seemed like going away made us more popular.
Eventually, the band resumed in 2012 for live appearances, and you say Oliver was instrumental.
I know he wanted us before, but I had to wait. I asked Matt. I always asked, because I said, you tell me, and he said he would do it. We went back over. Matt hadn't played metal. I played all different styles of guitar, but I hadn't played those Liege Lord songs in freaking 30 years. So I had to go relearn, and being older, you know, your mechanical skills aren't quite what they are at 20 years old. So, you know, obviously Joe's, I got to talk about Joe too. Joe was instrumental in putting this band back together. Joe wanted it, and I told him it's got to be with Matt. So the three of us, you know, Joe came to Stanford. Matt and I, forgive me, my voice is I'm losing my voice a little bit. We went out to dinner and we talked about it and we agreed, and now we had to offer it to Paul and my cousin. My cousin doesn't play drums anymore. He's in, you know, car industry. Paul didn't want to do it because he was with Johnny Winter at the time. Mm-hmm. And we had to find the right people. So, first guitar player, and I hadn't played with another guitar player in a long time. Danny was signed to Atlantic Records. My friend, a close friend of mine, was an A&R at Atlantic. So we used to go see Danny's band play, but they weren't metal, but Danny was. And I used to watch Danny and I loved his playing. So I called my friend Nick, another paisan, Nick Casanelli. He gave me Danny's phone number. He said, call him. Danny listened to it, and Danny's like, perfect. He came in, he made us even stronger than before, you know? So then we're left with the option of a drummer. So I didn't know it. I wasn't really playing, you know, I played in a band called Helmet, but Helmet was more modern. They call it new metal or whatever you want to call it. It's not what we do. So I didn't know any drummers that played double bass. Joe was very good friends, it still is, with Van Williams from Nevermore. Van couldn't do it, so he got us in touch with Frank. And, you know, Frank came in the studio. We auditioned a couple people. Frank came in. The minute he started playing, it just felt amazing. It felt right. And that's how we solidified. That's how we got back together.
So, once you're back, how did it feel to have something you were so passionate about in the past finally recognized?
It still feels really good. Thankful to be here. We played last weekend in our home state of Connecticut, and it just, I'm very thankful because you know, the ride is really good this time. You know,
Are you tempted to write any new music?
we've got 10 songs written in demo format. It's going to see the light of day. It's taken a long time, but it's the best shit we've ever done. Excuse my cursing. I feel like this album is going to, where Master Control left off, this is going to come in and it's going to punch everyone in the face. It's a really strong songwriting, phenomenal vocals, great guitar playing.
Any label offers to?
I think we're going to do it ourselves.
Okay.
Speaking of getting back together, did you happen to notice who's playing bass?
Bring it on.
So, Matt passed. Can you give me a minute?
I know.
So, you know, we played Hell's Heroes last year, and then we had to go to 2022. We went to Europe, and Matt couldn't do it because he was in treatment. So we found someone. I called a good friend of mine, Kevin, who was in a band called Hades, right, in nonfiction. Kevin couldn't do it, so he recommended a person he employs. He has his own business, and Will did it with us, and I was thankful. And Van Williams from Nevermore came. We went to Europe, and when Matt passed, something came. I don't know what it is, you know. I don't know what came to me, but Joe was on my mind. So you know, the history of Connecticut metal, obviously Fate's Warning, they're the gods of Connecticut, right? And then I'd like to think of Liege Lord as their son, you know what I mean? We rolled Joe back in the day, Jim, Frank Aresti. We convened in New Haven, we supported each other. It was like a mid-ground for us. We went drinking beers, we became friends, we hung out, we loved each other's band. So something came to me. And him and Matt play so similar. I knew that he was the right guy, and I know Matt would want Joe, you know, so. I get a little emotional when I talk about Matt.
Actually, we're gonna get a tiny bit emotional again. You actually touched upon this. Two of the former band members are no longer with us.
Paul passed
right?
away.
We have Paul and Matt.
Yeah.
What are your memories of being with them, working with them?
I think we did a lot of. Everything we did, I'm proud of. We you know, when you're in the moment like that, you're friends, you're best buds because you're hanging out every day. You're working. There's obviously, you know, there's some headbutting. I mean, I don't know if I ever really headbutted with Matt. You know, my cousin, I love my cousin. He's a hothead. He's like one of those super Southern Italians that yells and screams. But we made it work. You know, I think, you know, like that unit, that Master Control, we really, it's kind of crazy because I'm picking this up and two people are gone. You know, it's sad. But how do you keep people alive? You keep their memory going, and that's what we're doing.
It's a great tribute.
It is. It totally is.
Finally, what does the future hold for Liege Lord?
Well, we're gonna get this album done. It's you know, it's in demo format. We're gonna put this album out, and you know, we're gonna pay respects to Matt and Paul. We're gonna keep the name going. Keep the spirit alive. You know, I feel like with the members of this band, I feel like we can do anything. I'll go on in front of anyone. You know, I feel this is such a strong lineup. You know, it's like I said, if I'm playing and I don't look at Joe, I feel like Matt's and they're so similar to each other. You know, so that's the future. You're gonna hear some new Liege Lord stuff tonight. You're gonna hear 2 new songs.
Excellent. Thank you.
My pleasure.